what does it do on the inner level to us? And this is the thing to understand, is it's not only the most devastating thing in the outer level, it actually also, and this is where it gets insidious, unfortunately, what animal agriculture does, is it shuts down and represses our natural wisdom and intelligence and compassion and our capacities to actually deal effectively with the problems that we're creating, so that we just keep going along, killing and eating animals with blinders on and creating havoc to such a degree that we're proving to, and unfortunately, to the entire universe, that we human beings are not worthy to live on this particular planet, and we're going to be removed. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, scientists are saying if we in another 50 years, going the way we're going, there will for sure be nobody living here. I mean, we'll wipe out the animals too. So the good news, I think, in all of this is that I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping there's time for us to turn this around, but we can at least make the effort while we're alive here. It's a great thing to try and to make the effort. So just briefly, just to understand this is a big subject, but I'm just going to hit the main points. Every meal is a ritual that we engage in from the time we're little infants that is essentially reducing our capacity to make connections, right? Every meal is a ritual where we learn at a very deep level not to make the connection between what's on our plate and what it took to get it onto our plate. So if we do that with food, which is our most intimate connection with nature and with our culture and with the whole cosmos, you would think that would be one place for sure that we would want to be very aware of what we're doing, right? We want to, so what am I eating? I mean, food that we eat becomes our body. This is something we would really want to make sure we know. I met this woman today at the church. She said, well, I'll eat anything. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, and she was proud of it. I'm not like one of you vegans, you're kind of picky. I'll eat anything. Yep, my God, I'll eat it. Right? It's tragic. I mean, how bad does it have to get? What, like, really, you'll really eat anything? Oh, yeah, okay. So this is how deep the wounding is in our society, that we are so disconnected from our natural intelligence that we will eat violence and despair and horrible mutilations and killing with a smile on our face, thinking that this is a good thing to do. And I understand this. I went through the whole programming, but the idea is to essentially understand that our meals essentially reduce our capacity to make connections. The ability to make connections is intelligence. If you look at it from a systems point of view, and there's animals have intelligence, human beings have intelligence, cultures have intelligence. For all of these systems, the Earth has intelligence. Any self-regulating system, intelligence is the capacity to make connections, to receive feedback and respond to feedback. With animal agriculture and eating meat and dairy, we just basically shut that down. We don't receive feedback anymore. We don't make connections. We've lost our intelligence, and that's why we can cut down the rainforest. It's like we're sitting on a limb and just cutting it off and smiling away, and we just don't get it. We don't make the connection. We're attacking the very planet that we live on. So, number one, it's reducing our capacity to make connections. Number two, every meal is also essentially injecting into us a mentality of reductionism, where we learn to reduce beings to things routinely. We can just do it. When we see a cow, we say, that's a beef. We see that's a bacon over there. That's not a pig, it's a bacon. We harvest them, right? Like they're apples, or like we throw them around like they're sacks of cement. That not only is devastating to them, I mean, they suffer unbelievably. These poor animals are literally driven into insanity. They're hyper-confined, they're banging their heads against the bars of cages, they're mutilated, their babies are stolen, they're treated with no respect or kindness because they're just objects in a system that's mechanized to maximize profit and minimize the amount of awareness, basically. And so they suffer enormously, but we have to understand that we suffer also. Really, I mean, when we reduce beings to things, we create systems that reduce us to things as well. We find ourselves being treated as an object in a harmless economic system. And as we reduce animals to things, we pretty soon are reducing each other to things so we can manipulate each other and try to get what we want. And so this really strikes at the heart of healthy human relationships. If you want to eat meat and dairy, then this is the price you have to pay, essentially, is systems that are based on violence and disconnectedness, and relationships based on, unfortunately, the same thing. So commodification of life, reductionism, disconnectedness, and also privilege and elitism is a very important part of it. The subtext of every meal, it's unspoken, but it's right there, is entitlement. Is certain beings are inherently superior, other beings are inherently inferior, and it is totally fine for the inherently superior beings to dominate and exploit the inherently inferior beings, and however they want. So again, when every meal is reinforcing that mentality, how do we think that we can create a society where we have freedom or equality or justice in our relationships with each other when we're not only living on the opposite of that, but we're feeding that to our children? This is what, again, gets injected at a very deep pre-conscious level. So we have to somehow try to make it conscious. And then finally, there's more, but I'll just end with this one, is the mentality of the domination of the sacred feminine. And I think this is maybe the worst wound of all, because I refer to this actually in the World Peace Diet as Sophia. Sophia, you may remember, was the ancient Greek goddess of wisdom. Sophia, we get the word philosophy. Philos, Sophia means love of wisdom, love of the goddess of wisdom. So this goddess of wisdom is not some outer goddess that we have a statue. We have statues of. I love statues, but this is not a statue. This is, I think, in many ways symbolic of an inner wisdom that we all have. We all have Sophia dwelling within us. I think women especially have a feeling for this. This is the natural wisdom that yearns to love life, to love the little baby that's born through me and protect her or him, give my life to protect her or him. This kind of giving and loving and protecting wisdom is the foundation of a healthy society, the foundation of a healthy family and community and neighborhood. But forcing little children to eat the flesh of horribly abused animals essentially shuts down Sophia, shuts down that love and caring and spontaneity that we naturally have, so that we just get hard and sort of, I guess this word is really desensitized or numbed because we're forced to participate in these rituals. So this is essentially what happens. It's the suppression of Sophia. But what we're seeing happening, of course, which I'm delighted to witness, is a resurrection of Sophia. This resurrection of the sacred feminine in our society today manifests in many ways as vegan living. As people saying, I do care. I care about animals. I care about my children. I care about the earth. And I don't just care, I want to do something about it. I want to help share these ideas. I want to live by these ideas. I want to bring these ideas to other people. I want to be a force for healing. As Gandhi said, there can never be any positive social change without positive personal change. So instead of always just blaming Monsanto and they're the problem, we actually, they are a problem, no doubt about it. But it comes out of our behavior. If we transform as individuals and live this and share this with other people, then our society will change it. We really have to start at the personal level. And because I can never change another person, what I can change is my own thoughts, my actions, my words, my attitudes. That's totally available. And I think when we transform that, we begin to become part of, as Gandhi said, the change that we want to see in the world. And I think also, as Krishnamurti said, a very important point, he said, it's not a good idea to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. That basic question. Because once we begin to awaken to the underlying structure of our society and the violence implicit to animals and ecosystems and other people and really to ourselves, then we see, do I really want to go along with this? But the problem is that we do want to fit in, right? We do want to be well-adjusted to whatever society we're born into. So if we're born into this particular society, and it means, well, I got to go to the company fish fry and not eat the fish. But then the boss will look at me and say, hey, what's the matter with you? Don't like our fish? And I think, well, I want to get a raise. I better eat a little fish. But we don't want to do that, right? Because we want to live our lives consequently. So this is the question. How do we respond to the situation? Do we just go along and be part of the herd, in a sense, just do what everybody's doing? Or do we make our life a statement for our values, and thereby shed some light, or perhaps help light someone else's candle, so that we can have more light in our society that's really radiating out of a place of kindness and really, I think, transformation, which is happening all the time. And I think the pace and the momentum of this transformation is accelerating. We don't hear about it on the mass media too much, but even there it's trickling out. I just see it all the time. I was just in Germany as an example. This guy showed me a graph on the last 5 years in Germany. The number of vegan cookbooks that have been published, it went from like 3 to 10 to 27 to 85 to 180 or something. It's like it's going on like this. I remember I stopped at one point. I was so busy. But at one point I had time to look at a magazine shop at a train station in Bonn, and I went in there, and there wasn't that many magazines. I mean, there was some magazines, but there was five different vegan magazines. Right? I mean, there's enormous changes happening, and people are awakening in so many different, in the United States and many other societies as well. And I think it's part of this, maybe at a deep level, the time really for human beings to no longer continue with these blinders on, just doing what we've been told. So I would say, I'm going to start to kind of wrap it up here, that the two primary, let's see what time it is, the two primary, 8:19. Okay, so I think the two primary lessons perhaps we can learn from all of this, number one is the importance of introspection or self-reflection, really looking as deeply as we can into ourself, into our consciousness, into our conscience. What are we really, why are we on this earth, and why are we living, and what kind of a statement do we want to make with our life for the short time that we're here, to really connect with the preciousness of our life and how we are making a difference. I mean, anyone who's shopping at McDonald's is making a difference, and anyone who's shopping at a vegan restaurant is making a difference. I mean, we're all making a difference with our lives, for sure. So what kind of contribution do we want to make? So that's number one, to really look how we want to live and how we can awaken perhaps to a higher level of joy and freedom for ourselves, and to be able to bless not only ourselves but others. And then number two, what kind of communities do we want to contribute to, and what kind of communities do we want to help create? And I think like right here, right now, thanks to Tracy and many of you I know, we have this community that stands in stark contrast to the community outside these walls, right? I mean, this is a community really with the values of sustainability, of freedom, of kindness, compassion, health, awareness, to do whatever we can to increase that, to be examples for that, to embody that. And it does radiate beyond these walls. We will all leave these walls, we'll go out and be part of the larger community, but to really see the power of that. And I have to say, in my own life, as a little kid growing up, I grew up in Concord, Massachusetts, and I was eating the usual meals, lots of meat, dairy, and eggs. I remember when I was about 7 years old, I had never questioned any of it. And finally I started to question it. I said to my mother, "Mom, the kind of food we're eating, is this what everybody eats?" I thought maybe somebody eats something else, And she said, "Yes, everybody eats this." So my hopes were dashed. Oh, that's what everybody eats. Okay, I guess. And then she came back, though, she said something. She said a word I had never heard in my life. She said, "Well, actually, there are vegetarians." I'm like, what are vegetarians? And she said, "Don't worry, you'll never meet one." She said, "I've never met one. I'm a lot older than you are. And, I don't know where they get their protein. So I guess they're hypothetical people. They don't actually exist. They're just, they're people that don't eat protein somehow. And so the sad truth is that my mother was totally right. I never heard the word again, and that was the end of it. And I remember going away to the summer camp in Vermont where it was affiliated with this beautiful organic dairy, it's this wonderful little farm where nothing bad could ever happen to anyone. But I remember being taught how to catch a chicken, how to put her down on this board, had my axe, cut her head off, put her through the scalding tank. We ate chickens, we gathered around a dairy cow. She wasn't giving enough milk anymore. And you got to understand, on any dairy, organic or not, even though dairy cows would live to be 30 years old at least, on any dairy, and when they reach 5 years old, they are killed, because their production drops off, because they've been kept pregnant and lactating simultaneously. You can imagine if you're a woman what that's like. You're raped on a rape rack. After 9 months, you give birth to your baby, and then you want to love the baby, but you can't. The baby's immediately stolen, on any dairy, organic or not. That's what happens. And then you're impregnated again immediately. So now you're lactating and pregnant, and so when you're only 4 or 5 years old, you're worn out. Plus, they push them to give, instead of 10 pounds of milk a day, about 100 pounds of milk a day. And so we gathered around this dairy cow with a gun and just, that's what dairies do. They kill animals. They kill, 4 out of 5 babies will be killed, and the mother will be killed. Will be killed immediately, and the mother will be killed after 5 years. So I saw all that. I actually participated in the whole cutting and killing and everything of these animals, but I just was so deeply indoctrinated, I couldn't question it. I knew I'd gone through, at that point, 13 years of the most intense indoctrination a human being can go through. I knew, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that God gave us these animals and they don't